Bethel is an extraordinary place and has been and needs to be recognized for all of the great work it has done in closing an achievement gap. If you're going to have a discussion about closing the achievement gap in Connecticut, you have to make a stop here and applaud the hard work of a series of superintendents and administrators and teachers and parents and a community that has embraced this issue to make sure that we raise up a generation in this community properly prepared for its educational mission, its work mission. I also want to congratulate the level of cooperation between this Board of Education and its local university on spearheading an educational plan that made sure that the quality of students graduating from Bethel met the standards, and that the teachers and aspiring teachers from that university met the standards as well, and they're to be congratulated for that. Listen, we need to have a discussion in this state, and that's part of what we're doing, talking about the fact that we have had and continue to have the largest achievement gap in the nation. Now, we can all say that people born in poverty are going to have a harder time learning, but poverty is ubiquitous in this nation. We can all say that there are demographics that perhaps indicate that we should have the largest gap. But when you compare our demographics, for instance, to Maryland or New Jersey or Rhode Island or Massachusetts, they're darn close to identical. So we need to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, what more can we do to make sure that we raise up a generation that has learned and is ready for life's work? This particularly comes home to mind when you consider what happened in the most recent testing on a national basis, where those states that I just mentioned increased fourth grade scores, and we actually had declining fourth grade scores. And everybody in this room has heard what happens in many parts of this country when it comes to predicting a prison population. Companies that are hired to do that frequently in a state, in a locale, in a county, look at the number of children failing to read at or near third grade level at the end of third grade. So this discussion needs to be had about everything that needs to be on the table. Now listen, I understand that 163 pages, what we are proposing is difficult and shakes up the status quo. But as much as I celebrate being in Bethel and all of its accomplishments, imagine if you were forced to raise your children in a community that hadn't taken on this mission, that wasn't closing the achievement gap, but rather was tolerating it and not doing anything to change it. So what this discussion is about is all of the things in this package, from making sure that at a minimum 500 additional early childhood learning spots are available at the start of the next school year, that we concentrate our efforts on 30 low-performing districts that educate 41% of our student body in the state and employ 37% of our teachers, that we further focus on the 25 lowest-performing schools in this state and work with everyone we can work with on a statewide basis to turn around those 25 lowest-performing schools. That we make sure that the $5 million in this budget for the first time in the state's history, where the state will contribute to ongoing training of teachers, gets spent wisely. We make sure that the $50 million that will go through the ECS formula, 70,000 of it coming to this community, 39.5 million of it going to the 30 lowest performing districts, is spent in such a way that it is not used to displace local spending, but is actually applied toward improving education and accomplishment and the acquisition of early literacy skills. There is so much in this agenda. I understand it's difficult. I also understand it's difficult for other reasons, because it changes the status quo and the relationship that has for a long time existed in our state. And here there will undoubtedly talk about some of that. But let me say what we actually do in this proposal is that which has been proposed over the last 2 years, that which was represented in a vote by a commission established by the legislature that met for 2 years and came to an evaluation process both for teachers and principals, and does exactly what the CEA called for on their own website, and that website up in existence this very day when I last checked it. And that is to take into statute that very evaluation process. So I understand that this is hard, but I put it in the context of how hard a life will be of a young person who misses the opportunity to be raised in a community or a state that has taken the closure of the achievement gap as seriously as the community that we celebrate today. With that, Lieutenant Governor, are you ready? I'm ready too.
Okay.